Now, let's look at the comparative analysis of what we have here. So we have E-Levy on top here. So we're going to look at E-Levy for every 500 cedis you pay, there's 5 cedis in taxes. But D-Levy, for every 500 cedis you spend, you're going to spend 40 cedis in taxes. This is the difference. There's a difference. When there was E-Levy, which has now been abolished, if you do transactions on your mobile phone and you send 500 cedis, if Apreku sends me 500 cedis, he is going to pay 5 cedis in taxes because it was 1% of whatever you send. That's the bill that Parliament passed. This is the E-Levy that was abolished by the government. It was a campaign issue. I didn't like it. You didn't like it. Nobody liked it. Ken Ofori-Atta told us so many times. I said, good thing, but we said, no, we are tired. In fact, when E-Levy was abolished, many neutrals on the phone, on Facebook were saying, thank you for abolishing it, Aban Papa, buy, and all of that was said. Now, the same Aban Papa who said that we don't need to pay E-Levy now comes to us. Now, E-Levy did not have a multiplier effect. What do I mean by that? What I mean by multiplier effect is that when you were sending E-Levy, you send E-Levy to somebody, you pay money, it does not necessarily translate into the price of goods and services around you. Again, E-Levy was optional, maybe 20% optional. 20% optional because whilst it was very convenient, you could still do without it. You can issue a check for the person. You can go to the person by picking transport if that will incur some cost and give the person the money. You can issue a bank transfer to the person. You can do a few things. I think bank transfers to a charge, but you can issue a check to the person. So E-Levy was just 80% compulsory. With D-Levy, it's almost 100% compulsory because it's transportation. If you live in Medina and you work in Accra, every day, Monday to Friday, you are coming from Medina to Accra. If you're a caterer and your catering company is in Tesano and you are going to serve people at Spintex Road, you have to go. You can't avoid it. There's no way to avoid it. You have to put the food in your stuff and drive it to Spintex Road and serve the engagement and serve the wedding. You can't say you're not going. So with the transportation tax, it is daunting in that it is almost compulsory. And we have a transportation system in Ghana where there are excessive taxes on it already. And they call it the petroleum price buildup. Now, with this tax coming on board, you can't do anything about it. So this has a multiplier effect. If you are spending 500 cedis on petrol and you are paying 40 cedis more, and on 500 cedis on petrol, you are selling your unit price for 7 cedis, and now you have to pay 40 cedis more, you might change your unit price from 7 cedis to 9 cedis. That is the debacle of this levy. It is a debacle because it is a big deal. It's daunting and you cannot dodge it. There's no way you can dodge it. The government has been quite clever. So whereas there was E-Levy which was raising some money, D-Levy will probably raise more money, but it will come at a cost of affecting the livelihoods of Ghanaians. And maybe perhaps it depends on how the government is able to convince the people of Ghana that this is a good thing, let's do it. That's how this works. Let's look at 1,000 cedis. Under E-Levy, for every 1,000 cedis that you sent, you are going to pay 10 cedis. And everybody said it's bad. Then the government comes to introduce it and says that for every 1,000 cedis of petrol you buy, you are paying 80 cedis in a tax. For every 1,000 cedis of E-Levy, you are paying 10 cedis. For every 1,000 cedis of petrol, you are paying 8 cedis. Ofori-Atta is up, Atto-Forson is down. Which one is more punitive? Akufo Addo is E-Levy, John Mahama is D-Levy. Which one is more punitive? It's a question for all of us to look at and answer. It's a question also for us to engage the NDC with, because this was never on the cards. Somebody put a post and says that if the NDC is doing this because they say people have stolen, they should rather go and collect the money. Why are they punishing us for people who have stolen something? Why are the general public being punished for another person who has stolen something? Except that something is not adding up and something is not being told. But this is the situation. This is what Akufo Addo brought. For which reason the MPP was booted out of office. One of the reasons. This is what NDC have brought 6 months into coming to power. Coming to power on the back of criticizing E-Levy. Within 6 months of coming to power, they introduced a worse levy. Are they giving politicians a bad name? Are we all going to be consumed one day by some insurrection because of some of these things? What is happening? Because if you come to power on the back of indicating the ills of E-Levy, and then within 6 months, you introduce something that is worse at 12:10 midnight.